Chapter 676. Thinking of this, the students suddenly understood something. Student Yiqing Luo. Instructor Chu looked at Yiqing Luo's gaze with increasing admiration. Regarding the matter of going to class of gods, you should consider it carefully. This is a rare opportunity for you. This new student was completely different from the other freshmen. The more they looked at her, the more they felt that she was a gift from the heavens to the heavenly academy. Brave and resourceful, full of guts and a majestic aura. This kind of girl was much stronger than the guys. If she was placed in class of gods with some training, she would definitely achieve a hegemony. In this strange world where the strong were respected as long as she had enough ability, even if she was the queen, so what? No need to consider. Yiqing Luo shook her head. I know you are doing it for my own good, but in the devil class I am fine. The two instructors saw that she insisted on not listening, looked at each other and frowned. But they also knew that Yiqing Luo had her own reasons for not accepting this opportunity, so they didn't continue to insist. The instructors looked around them. Because of Yiqing Luo, those freshmen who failed did not leave directly. The instructors directly called for the freshmen to line up, said some final words, and let everyone remember what Yiqing Luo said earlier, and then announced the dismissal. Lu Xiaoyu rushed forward and held Yiqing Luo's arm. Her face was full of shock. Qing Luo, when did you become so powerful? Those are instructors, the two most powerful instructors among the freshmen. In this battle, Lu Xiaoyu could be said to be the most worried person. She roughly understood Yiqing Luo's character, and knew that Yiqing Luo would not do things that she was not sure of. But when she heard that Yiqing Luo wanted to challenge two instructors at the same time, she was still stunned. If you also want to have such skills, you can look for me during the school holidays. Yiqing Luo took Lu Xiaoyu and left the training ground together. The large group of students behind, all enviously looked at Yiqing Luo's departing figure. That elegant and refined, extraordinary aura was much more stunning than the first school's flower. Yiqing Luo is really amazing. How did she do it? Yeah, I'm simply dumbstruck. A low-level profounder who clearly hasn't broken through to the mysterious profound realm actually possesses such formidable skills. It's too unbelievable. To be able to fight evenly with Instructor Chu and to be able to fight evenly with Instructor He's help, how strong must he be to be able to do this? Right. Don't think that student Yiqing Luo was at a disadvantage earlier, but the two instructors obviously didn't gain any advantage. If that battle had continued, it's still uncertain who would win. Even though they still couldn't tell who won this challenge, they still couldn't tell who won. Among the students, there were high profound class students and faculty council students who had suffered losses in Yiqing Luo's hands. No matter what Yiqing Luo did, they were extremely dissatisfied and were unable to develop any fondness for her. Yiqing Luo was indeed a beautiful jade. From the moment she entered the academy, she had been shining and radiating her own brilliance. The more it was like this, the more self-proclaimed geniuses they hated Yiqing Luo. Because in their hearts, the idea that Yiqing Luo's name was equivalent to trash was deeply rooted. They weren't willing to admit that they weren't as good as Yiqing Luo. He was unwilling to admit that he couldn't even compare to a piece of trash. Chapter 677. That's right, what powerful, she's just a waste class student and you guys still treat her like a goddess, envy her and think she's powerful? Aren't you throwing the face of the low profound class? She's just a yellow profound 9th grade waste, so what if she's powerful? Release her profound chi, if she can't even dodge one move she'll die. These high profound class students kept calling it low profound class and wastrel class. These students from the intermediate and low profound classes were all filled with anger after being insulted. But due to the strength of the high profound class students, they could only clench their fists and swallow this anger. Looking at the low and intermediate class students who did not dare to speak up, the high profound class students revealed a smug sneer. There were also those students from the faculty council. Many of them were intermediate class students and they also laughed along with the high profound class students, as if the ones being ridiculed were not their classmates. This feeling made these students feel extremely uncomfortable. They suppressed their anger and turned to the entrance of the training ground. Can't provoke, can't they just hide? At this moment, a deep and low, mellow and cold voice came into everyone's ears. Poor weaklings, you still don't know until now. Sure enough, you can only be the parasites of the high profound class, living a mediocre life relying on the high profound class. This voice was extremely soft and slow. Every word was spat out very clearly. It resounded throughout the entire training ground and even rippled with echoes. Under the awe of this voice, everyone's body stiffened and looked towards the direction of the voice. On the second floor of the training ground, there was a man dressed in a white robe standing proudly. This man was different from the other masters in the school. They all had the appearance of an old man. But it was an extremely young man. Especially that man, he had a handsome face as if he was meticulously sculpted with uncanny craftsmanship. His lines and contours were filled with elegance that made one's heart palpitate. The most eye-catching thing was his pair of peach blossom-like eyes. The corners of his eyes were long and narrow, and his thick eyelashes trembled from time to time, faintly revealing a bit of evil charm. When all the female students saw that face, they subconsciously clutched their chests, unable to shift their gazes away. There's actually such a handsome man in this world? Compared to the most handsome man in the school, Xian Mu, he was even more handsome. Who is he? He's wearing the uniform of our academy's teacher. How come I don't remember our academy having such a young teacher? Which class of teachers are they teaching? If he were the teacher teaching our class, I would definitely study hard and improve every day. What a handsome teacher. The female students couldn't contain their excitement as they stared at the man with adoration. The female students of the high profound class were not spared as well. They were completely mesmerized by this handsome face and did not notice that he was mocking them. The other male students quickly regained their senses after being shocked by the man's identity. There was even a tinge of jealousy in his eyes. Which class are you from? How come I've never seen you before? The young master chuckled and his peach blossom eyes were filled with a cold gleam. I heard that the Heavenly Academy respects teachers the most and the atmosphere is good. I didn't expect that a student from the high profound class could use such an interrogative tone to question a master. This has really opened my eyes. The few male students' faces turned ashen as they glared at the young teacher. Chapter 678. You're not even a teacher from the high profound class. Who are you? You have to prove that you're a teacher from our school. Otherwise, we will suspect that you're a spy from another school. A few male students patted the shoulders of the female students beside them. Why are you still being smitten? Didn't you hear him mocking us from the high profound class? We're all elites from the high profound class. Not being able to enter the class of gods means that we still have room for improvement. Who are you to say that we're parasites from the high profound class? One after another, the sound of cursing and argument. The training ground that had finally quietened down was once again filled with noise. Following that, a light chuckle could be heard. It was extremely light, but it suppressed the noise. It was the young teacher who was laughing. That smile made the contours of his face look extremely gentle. The curved peach blossom eyes made that face even more, exuded a charm that could make one blush. Did I say anything wrong? The young teacher's hands were placed on the railing as he leaned his tall body on it. His posture was indolent and alluring. Students from the high profound class, not only do you have a bad character, you're also as dumb as a pig. Saying that, he sighed and shook his head helplessly. How could a proud and arrogant young man tolerate the provocation of a man who was more handsome than him? He immediately rushed towards the direction of the second floor. Then he heard the man's light and leisurely voice. Who am I? Didn't you see that your instructors have not said a word? The male student stopped in his tracks and immediately turned to look at the two instructors. Only to see the two instructors standing at the side with a cold expression, looking respectfully at the young teacher on the second floor. That's right, respectful. Only then did the students realize that this young teacher's identity might not be as simple as a teacher. From the beginning to the end, the two instructors did not say a word. If this young teacher had really stolen the uniform of the school's teacher, the instructors would have rushed up to him. They were indeed as dumb as a pig. When the male students finally reacted, their anger was extinguished. Teacher Mo, these students are young and impetuous. If they have offended you in any way, I and old he would like to apologize to you. After the training ground became quiet again, Instructor Chu cupped his hands and bowed in the direction of the young master. The young teacher waved his hand. It's fine. I would like to thank these students for their passionate performance, allowing me to understand the atmosphere of the Heavenly Academy. The instructor's expression changed slightly. Their eyes met and he lowered his head, Master, this is not what you see. This is a misunderstanding, I can explain. No need. Mo Zun's lips curled up as he squinted his peach blossom eyes. I don't want to make things difficult for both instructors, but these students from the high profound class really need to be disciplined. If they still have this kind of character after leaving the academy, it won't only be you guys who will be ashamed, but the entire Heavenly Academy. The instructors said in unison, Thank you for your teachings, Supreme Mo. At this moment, on the other side of the second floor, a few elders in white robes walked over quickly. Their foreheads were covered in sweat, but when they saw Senior Mo, their eyes lit up. They bowed respectfully and said, Teacher Mo, the headmaster is waiting for you in the headmaster's office to discuss the matter of entering the class of gods. Please follow me. Class of gods? Supreme Mo raised his eyes and looked at the instructors. Which class is the female student who tied with the both of you in? Instructor Chu was stunned. Devil class. Very well then, devil class it is. Supreme Mo's slender fingers caressed his smooth chin. Chapter 679. After Yi Qing Luo left the training ground, she followed Lu Xiaoyu to the new dormitory. The dormitory, which was destroyed by those killers, had already been filled up by the academy's people during the 3 days holiday. Perhaps it was because Yi Qing Luo was assassinated in the academy. The academy specially prepared all the daily necessities for her as an apology. After Yi Qing Luo left, she called out Shiju and sniffed the surroundings, checking once to make sure that there was no problem with these daily necessities before she was assured. She couldn't be blamed for making a fuss over nothing. It was better to be safe than sorry. After all, towards this director Yi Qing Luo had always been suspicious. Yi Qing Luo felt that the director definitely had something to do with it. And what was the relationship between the director and that protector as well as the so-called lord, she still didn't know. Who knew if the director would tamper with the daily necessities prepared for her in order to create a false impression of her sudden death? After Yi Qing Luo took a bath, she changed out of her sweaty uniform and immediately soaked in the water. She drew a clean cloth and wiped her hair. When her gaze landed on the uniform in the water, her hands paused. Somewhere in her heart, there was a violent throbbing. A man dressed in a luxurious purple robe seemed to appear in front of her eyes, squatting in front of the wooden basin, his slender fingers, holding her smelly clothes, rubbing it tirelessly. That noble man, that high and mighty man, was doing the most ordinary thing between a husband and wife for her. Because it was him, this kind of ordinary was even more precious. Zhou Xian, Xian, Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips. As she placed the wet cloth on her shoulder, she leaned against the bed and sat down. Was it? She missed him too much after not seeing him for a few days? Why, there was an extremely strong feeling in her heart as though he was not far away from her. It couldn't be. Zhou Xian had already been chased to the imperial palace to recuperate. She had said that before his injury was fully healed, he was not allowed to come to the academy to look for her. With such a serious injury, it would take at least half a month for him to recover. At this time, it was impossible for Zhou Xian to appear in the academy. Yi Qing Luo shook her head and suppressed her longing to the bottom of her heart. Grabbing the cloth on her shoulder, she dried her hair while walking towards the window, trying to divert her attention. She didn't realize that the profound phoenix ring on her finger and the flowing red light seemed to have sensed something as her heart raced. The red light seemed to have sensed something and started to wander around the ring. Outside the window was the flat ground where the women's dormitory hung their clothes. Looking at the rows of bamboo poles, they were all neat greenish-white uniforms, with the occasional small objects used by women mixed in. At this moment there were a few female students hanging their clothes together. Have you guys heard that a student from the High Profound class went missing? Are you talking about that Su Rong from High Profound class 1 who is quite talented? That's right, that's him. This matter has been going on for a few days. I heard that he went missing in our academy. Didn't the academy say that student Su Rong voluntarily applied to leave the academy a few days before the holidays? Su Rong's parents have already come to the academy. They said that it was a holiday and they didn't see their son come home at all. A few female students gathered together. Naturally, it was inevitable to discuss the latest gossip. Yi Qing Luo leaned against the window, her slender brows slightly knitted. He had heard of this Su Rong. Most of the students in the Heavenly Academy were either rich or respectable. Chapter 680. Because of his mediocre family background, in order to repay his parents, he worked extremely hard after he entered the academy. His innate talent was indeed not bad. He was not afraid of hardships and was willing to study hard. In a short span of 4 years he successfully entered the high profound class 1. Because it was an inspirational thing. The other students would mention it from time to time. Yiqing Luo had also heard about it. Listening to the discussion of these female students, Yiqing Luo vaguely felt something was amiss. Su Rong had entered the high profound class 1 for less than a year. His profound grade was estimated to be around the 4th or 5th grade. She heard that there were many large families who were prepared to buy him over at a high price. Su Rong had yet to decide which force to pledge allegiance to. At this time, how could Su Rong withdraw from the academy? One must know that once he withdrew from the academy without the halo of a high profound class student, he would not be that valuable. Yiqing Luo expressed that she could not understand this point. Speaking of this, I also thought of something. A female student lowered her voice and said mysteriously, "It seems that there are also 2 students in our class who withdrew from the academy. There are also students who withdrew from the intermediate profound class too? Are they crazy?" It was not easy to get into the Heavenly Academy after so many years of hard work. They want to withdraw from the academy? Actually, I don't know if you have heard of the rumors about the Heavenly Academy. Upon hearing the gossip, the few female students put down the clothes in their hands and huddled together. They heard the older female student whispered, "Rumor. Every holiday there will be 2 or 3 students who withdraw from the academy." The other female students rolled their eyes. Isn't this a very normal thing? Students leaving the academy and new students coming in, this was a common thing in Xikong. This is indeed very normal, but what is not normal is these students who withdrew from the academy, many of their family elders came to the academy to inquire. They did not even return home during the holidays. The few female students dared not to say a word. After those elders came once, they did not come to the academy again. Everyone thought that those students had returned home, but the older female student carefully glanced around. Her voice was even lower. "This time when I went home, I heard from my mother that her cousin's child, after he withdrew from the academy half a year ago until now, they have not returned. That is to say, after these students submitted their withdrawal application, there was no trace of them, in other words. Missing." The female students were instantly dumbfounded, their eyes filled with fear. The atmosphere suddenly froze. While talking about this, the female students looked around and found that there was no one else around, giving off an eerie feeling. Frightened, they gathered up their clothes and left together. Yiqing Luo, who was standing by the window, frowned even tighter. She pulled down the cloth that was drying her hair and placed it on the table. She narrowed her eyes and carefully rearranged the conversation of those female students in her mind. For some reason, her mind inexplicably recalled the plan that the dean and the protector mentioned on the 2nd floor of the library pavilion that day. After these students applied to leave the academy, they disappeared without a trace. It was as if they had disappeared from this world. Could it be? Is it related to that so-called plan? This thought instantly made Yiqing Luo's heart thumped. The disappearance of those students was definitely not a coincidence. Moreover, every single one of them had voluntarily applied to leave the academy. Just as she had deduced before, generally speaking, those who were able to enter the intermediate profound class or even the high profound class, as long as they were noticed by other forces and wanted to be taken in as their own, their status would skyrocket. Who would choose to leave the academy at this time? There was definitely something wrong with this. Chapter 681. Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with questions. The disappearance of those students made Yiqing Luo recall the conversation she had heard on the 2nd story of the library pavilion. She remembered that the director had once said something, "Those few people whom his lordship had pointed out, I have already kept them without leaving any traces." Those few people whom he had pointed out. Was he referring to Su Rong and the rest? If it was really Su Rong and the rest, then the director had created a false impression that the students had withdrawn from the academy, leaving them in the academy, disappearing forever. Just for that so-called his lordship's grand plan? These were only her own guesses. There was no evidence to prove that the students' disappearances were related to the director. Harboring these questions, Yiqing Luo was slightly distracted as she helped Ghost Doctor to change his dressing in the pill refining room. After a few days of recuperation, Ghost Doctor's shoulder wound had already healed. After Yiqing Luo fixed the gauze, she carried the tray and placed it on the wooden table as she subconsciously stuffed the things on top into the drawer. Ghost Doctor frowned as he glanced sideways at the bandaged wound on his shoulder. "Lass, you didn't even sprinkle any medicinal powder and directly wrapped it up?" Ugh. Yiqing Luo suddenly regained her senses as she blinked her eyes, and after some time she nodded her head in a daze. "I seem to have forgotten to sprinkle some medicinal powder. Let me remove the gauze and bandage it up again." Saying that, she took out the gauze and medicine bottle which she had placed back into the drawer. Ghost Doctor's brows creased even tighter as he impatiently waved his hand. Forget it, I'll let you torment me a few more times and my injury will never recover." Yiqing Luo guiltily drooped her eyelids. "Master." No matter how puzzled she was when she was helping Ghost Doctor to bandage his wound and learning how to refine pills, she shouldn't be distracted. Right from the start, Ghost Doctor had already told her this point. Before reaching the rank of an alchemy ancestor, one must not look or think while refining pills. One must not be distracted, otherwise, it would easily affect the profound jade heart. Not only would the pill refining fail, it would also cause damage to oneself. "From the moment you came in, I could tell that you were absent-minded." Ghost Doctor's expression was impatient. His hands were clasped together as he was extremely frustrated. He wanted to find out what Yiqing Luo was thinking about in her head, but was worried that if she said it out he would be in trouble again. But looking at Yiqing Luo's absent-minded look, his heart felt even more frustrated. The Ghost Doctor slammed the table in annoyance. "You are the disciple of the Ghost Doctor. In the future, when it comes to refining medicine, you will represent the face and reputation of the Ghost Doctor. Focus on learning how to refine medicine. Throw everything else aside." After a moment of silence, he raised his hand and ruffled his messy white hair. "If you really can't solve it, I'll solve it for you." Looking at Ghost Doctor's gloomy expression, obviously feeling that it was troublesome, but he forced himself to help her solve the problem, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh out loud. "What are you laughing at? Just tell me what you want. Stop wasting time." Yiqing Luo muttered to herself for a moment, but still asked the doubt in her heart directly. "Master Ghost Doctor, have you heard of the rumors about the academy?" The Ghost Doctor's position in the academy was obviously similar to Gui Yu's. None of them feared the headmaster. In other words, he was a senior figure in this academy. Although the Ghost Doctor was immersed in concocting medicine, and didn't care about the matters of the outside world. However, he had more or less heard the rumors about the academy. Rumors? Ghost Doctor squinted his eyes as he raised his hand and slapped Yiqing Luo's forehead. "The most important thing now is to quickly understand all the knowledge and skills in concocting medicine, then successfully refine a high-grade medicinal pill for me." Ghost Doctor was exasperated that iron didn't meet his expectations. He was absent-minded for the entire day just because of some lousy rumor. Chapter 682. Yiqing Luo hugged her head and dodged to the side as she muttered, "What I want to ask is the rumor of the missing students. Is it true or not?" The anger on the Ghost Doctor's face froze. His tightly furrowed white brows gradually gathered together, forming a few wrinkles. "Where did you hear that rumor?" This expression, this tone. The Ghost Doctor had definitely heard of this rumor. "Master Ghost Doctor, does that mean the disappearance of the students is true?" The Ghost Doctor berated. "Whether it's real or fake, this matter has nothing to do with you as a student. Just do your part, you don't have to worry about anything else." The Ghost Doctor's words had indirectly admitted that the students had gone missing. Not only was this matter real, but the Ghost Doctor also seemed to be related to the disappearance of the students. The Ghost Doctor's emotions fluctuated greatly. As a student, she didn't need to care about this matter. Then, what did he mean by taking care of it? To the Ghost Doctor, who hated troublesome matters the most, he would at most hear about such matters, and would definitely not take it to heart. But the Ghost Doctor's attitude was different. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly thumped hard. Ghost Doctor and Director. Surely they weren't in cahoots, right? After that, this thought was swiftly swept away from her mind. Since she had become the Ghost Doctor's disciple, she should believe in her own master and believe in her own foresight. There were many things that she couldn't jump to conclusions before she truly understood them. Seeing Yiqing Luo not speaking for a long time, Ghost Doctor paced back and forth in frustration, as his hands impatiently scratched his hair. That sinister and dark face seemed even more horrifying. Lass, whether this matter is true or not, you shouldn't interfere. This isn't something you can interfere with. You just have to remember that what you need to do now is to improve your overall strength. In addition to the ability to refine medicine, I will also guide you on how to properly guide the profound jade heart and cultivate profound energy. The Ghost Doctor paused for a moment, then sighed meaningfully. Let the teachers of the academy deal with the rumors. If you still think of me as your master, then listen to me and don't do anything rash. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. Obviously, there were too many things involved in the disappearance of the students. Even the Ghost Doctor wasn't confident that she could solve this problem. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and heavily spat out a word. And yes, what she needed to do now was to increase her strength. Before she had absolute power, the Ghost Doctor didn't have the confidence to handle things. Even if she wanted to, she didn't have the ability to. Moreover, she had never thought of herself as a kind person. She wouldn't run around for other people's business, and she might even lose her own life. As for why she was so concerned about the disappearance of the students, it was only because she was the one who eavesdropped on the conversation between the headmaster and the strange protector on the second floor of the library. From their words, it was obvious that they were pointing at a new student. From the process of her interaction with the director, Yiqing Luo was almost certain that the freshman whom they were referring to was indeed her. The disappearance of the students was just a precursor. It was very likely that the next student to go missing would be her. Don't think too much lest you disturb your state of mind. If your state of mind is disturbed, it will be a huge obstacle to your advancement and cultivation of profound energy. Ghost Doctor shook his head as he slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo, patting her shoulder lightly as he changed the topic. Chapter 683. My Profound Jade Heart. Yiqing Luo wasn't surprised that Ghost Doctor knew that her profound jade heart was unstable. To Ghost Doctor, just taking her pulse was enough to find out all the problems in her body. Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped as she placed her hand on her heart and shook her head. My profound jade heart has been dug out. Now this piece of profound jade heart is Zhou Xian. Also the Overlord who helped me to condense this profound jade heart. Dug out. Ghost Doctor's eyes sunk as he speedily locked onto Yiqing Luo's wrist. His expression was solemn as his gaze turned sharp. After checking carefully, Ghost Doctor's white brows creased. No wonder this profound jade heart is so unstable, so this isn't your profound jade heart. He should have guessed it earlier. Yiqing Luo's body had undergone marrow cleansing and her limbs and bones were all in a state of absorbing the heaven and earth's spiritual qi. And her state of mind was much broader and stronger than the average person. Her aptitude was outstanding and her innate talent was heaven-defying. At least her current profound grade was at least Earth profound grade and above. But unfortunately her current profound grade was only Mystic profound 8th grade. Moreover, in these 3 days of holidays she had consecutively broken through to profound grade. It didn't match his guess at all. So, the problem was with her profound jade heart. Master Ghost Doctor, I know I'm wrong. I understand what I should do now. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as she clenched her fists tightly and raised her head. I will not ask any more questions that are beyond my capabilities. Right, what she needed to do now was to make herself stronger. Since she was sure that the director's target was her, all the more she should raise her own ability to prevent herself from falling into the director's evil hands. If she didn't want to be one of the missing students, then she should create her own chance to save herself. Otherwise, no matter how worried or afraid she was, when things really happened to her, she had no way to resist and would be trampled upon, which would only make her even more aggrieved. Lass, when your ability has gained my recognition, I will tell you everything you want to know, including the reason why I got injured. Yiqing Luo nodded her head vigorously. For the following time, Yiqing Luo returned to the repetitive days of refining pills training. The news of Yiqing Luo challenging the instructors on the last day of the freshman training and ended in a draw against 2 instructors at the same time spread throughout the entire academy. As for those students from the high profound class, they were reported to the principal by the instructors, and the principal personally went to the high profound class to hold a meeting for the students. Furthermore, he made an announcement to the entire academy, accusing the high-profound class students of not respecting their elders, and punished the entire class to clean the academy grounds for a month. These high-profound class students were unconvinced, but they dared not be as arrogant as that day. Occasionally, there were students from other classes who used a worshipping tone to mention about the incident of Yiqing Luo and the instructor becoming friends, as they quietly ridiculed her. In their hearts, most of their thoughts were the same as Shangguan Liuli. Of course, they didn't think that their instructor would go easy on them. They were all certain that the instructors had left some face for Yiqing Luo, hence he let her off just when she was about to admit defeat. This couldn't be considered a challenge at all. The two instructors had fought to a draw. These soft complaints and ridicule did not attract the attention of the other students. Because the two instructors had openly suggested to the principal that Yiqing Luo could enter the class of gods to learn. This action shocked the entire academy's teachers and students. Helping Yiqing Luo to apply to enter the class of gods? That meant to say, these two cold-faced instructors had completely recognized Yiqing Luo's ability. Chapter 684. The cold-faced instructor's reputation was not undeserved. They thought that Yiqing Luo had the qualifications to enter the class of gods, which meant that they had indeed fought to a draw with Yiqing Luo. A 15-year-old freshman who was in the realm of yellow profound 9th grade. She already had the ability to fight to a draw with the two cold-faced instructors. How scary would she be in the future when she grew up? How could such a heaven-defying genius condescend to stay in the devil class, that waste class? Yiqing Luo absolutely had the qualifications to enter the class of gods. All the students were incomparably envious, admiring and exclaiming in admiration towards Yiqing Luo. They had already forgotten about it. This Yiqing Luo was once the target of their ridicule and abuse. Just as the students were waiting for the director to issue the notice to transfer Yiqing Luo to the class of gods, Yiqing Luo stood out. She directly rejected the two instructors' good intentions, and tactfully expressed that she wanted to stay in the devil class. Yiqing Luo's rejection without a doubt set off a storm in the academy. The class of gods. That was the class of gods. Even 100 devil classes could not be compared to the class of gods. That was a godlike existence in the heavenly academy, completely surpassing the faculty council, the elder quarters and the director's existence. The class of gods, how many students yearned for it? Even if it wasn't to enter the class of gods, just to meet the students of the class of gods and speak to them, they felt that this life was enough. Yiqing Luo was a student of the devil class. She finally had the chance to enter the class of gods and she actually rejected it. The entire academy immediately felt that there was something wrong with Yiqing Luo's brain. At this moment, some were guessing the reason why Yiqing Luo rejected the class of gods, and the topic was brought up to the eve of the academy's holiday. Yiqing Luo accepted the challenge from the intermediate profound class 2 class monitor Xian. Yiqing Luo was to lead the devil class to participate in the interclass competition 8 months later. Could it be that this was the reason why Yiqing Luo rejected it? The minute this was said, some students immediately jumped out. Impossible. Only an idiot would give up his bright future just for a devil class competition? If it were you, would you be willing to do so? All the students were unable to refute. If it were them, they couldn't be bothered about the competition. If they could enter the class of gods, they would be willing even if it cost them half their lives. Furthermore, to lead the devil class to participate in the interclass competition? No matter how powerful Yiqing Luo was, that was only her own matter. How could the trash class have the ability to fight against them? You guys don't believe it either, right? I don't believe it either. How could student Yiqing Luo give up the chance to enter the class of gods for a waste class? The interclass competition isn't an individual competition. Those trash in devil class probably won't even be able to pass the first round of preliminaries. Why is goddess Yiqing Luo so stubborn? There were all kinds of discussions, all kinds of suspicions, among which there were also high profound class students who secretly mocked Yiqing Luo, determined that Yiqing Luo was deliberately putting on an act. But no one could really guess the reason. Just as the students' blood was boiling and they were constantly looking for the latest gossip, the dean also appeared. No, to be more precise, it was a notice. The announcement was concise and comprehensive. He was basically explaining that the matter of the instructor helping Yiqing Luo to enter the class of gods was just a rumor in the academy. And the reason why Yiqing Luo refused to enter the class of gods was because this matter was fake. Chapter 685. Misunderstanding. The students were not easy to fool. On the last day of the freshman training, at least 300 to 400 students crowded there to watch the scene. The instructor had personally mentioned the class of gods to Yiqing Luo in front of so many students. How could it be fake? But the notice issued by the director insisted that it was fake and a misunderstanding. The students did not believe it and went to ask the instructor. The instructor, who had always been cold and didn't care about anything, actually answered the students' questions. We are unwilling to throw Yiqing Luo's face, so we purposely held back, creating a false impression that we and Yiqing Luo fought to a draw? Instructor Ho snorted coldly, his eyes were as cold as ice. I don't know which student started this rumor, but if I were to investigate, I would definitely punish the student who slandered the instructor according to the academy's rules. Unwilling to let the students lose their face? Have you ever seen us care about anyone's face? Instructor Chu just sneered and asked. Immediately the students shook their heads. How could the cold-faced instructor care about the student's face? They would rather believe that the sun rose from the west. That day of the challenge there were more than 300 students who witnessed it. Whether Instructor Chu and I went easy or not, I believe everyone's eyes are clear. As for why we chose to end the competition at that time, Yiqing Luo was pinned against the wall. Instructor Chu and I attacked together, but it doesn't mean that she would lose. Yiqing Luo is a stubborn student. She will look for any chance to win. That battle, although Yiqing Luo was at a disadvantage, but she couldn't beat us and we couldn't really knock her down. The meaning of the training challenge is not to determine the winner or loser, but to test the student's skills and reaction ability. We naturally chose to end the challenge. After explaining, the two instructors applied for half a month's sick leave and left the school. For a moment, the school was in a flurry of discussion. There were some students who formed a group to follow Yiqing Luo, hoping to stop her and ask her the reason why she refused to enter the class of gods, as well as the inter-class competition 8 months later, if Devil class really wanted to take part, etc. Yiqing Luo only answered affirmatively that the Devil class would definitely participate in the inter-class competition. After that, these students couldn't find any trace of Yiqing Luo. Those from the high profound class and faculty council who hated Yiqing Luo naturally started to jump up and down, unwilling to be left out. Some ridiculed Yiqing Luo for not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. They would definitely give Devil class a heavy blow in the inter-class competition. Some ridiculed Yiqing Luo's rejection of the class of gods, which was actually a gimmick planned by her. It was just to make a name for herself in the academy, to make the other students envious of her, to look up to her, to satisfy her vanity. Devil class's students totally did not care about the turmoil in the academy. They were currently locked in the Devil class, receiving the cruel and torturous training from Long Yunzhan and the rest. Yiqing Luo would definitely take part in the daily team training, and based on each student's individual physique, she would give pointers on more effective training. Yiqing Luo was not only training these Devil class students who were filled with hope, she was also training herself. 7 days later, Yiqing Luo walked out from the secret room and passed the 3 jade bottles in her hands to Ghost Doctor. In the past few days she had successfully entered the Grandmaster Alchemist level and became a true alchemist. Chapter 686. These were the pills which Ghost Doctor had instructed Yiqing Luo to refine, and it was an assessment for her. 3 chances. 1 bottle of high-grade pills, 2 bottles of middle-grade pills. The failure rate was 0. Ghost Doctor had never seen such a talented alchemist. Even for him, when he was at Yiqing Luo's age, he absolutely had no way to maintain a 100% success rate when refining high-grade pills. Ghost Doctor had really not expected that. He initially felt that tidying up was too troublesome, so he casually caught a young lady who knew how to differentiate medicinal herbs and was interested in this aspect. He had not expected that this young lady actually gave him such a huge surprise. Not only did she have a photographic memory, she could remember every single word and sentence which she had read from books clearly. She also had an extremely strong ability to differentiate. Furthermore, the most important thing was, Yiqing Luo herself was already a master-grade alchemist. This grade, in the field of alchemy which used up a lot of money, energy and had a low success rate, was absolutely considered as an average standard. There would be quite a number of powerhouses who would fight over her, wanting to recruit her as a target. Although towards the skill and method of alchemy, Yiqing Luo was still extremely unfamiliar. But as long as he gave a slight hint, Yiqing Luo would swiftly react, comprehending everything that Ghost Doctor said. In just 7 days she had advanced to become a Grandmaster Alchemist. This kind of innate talent. It was so heaven-defying that it was a little scary. Presumably, it wouldn't take long before Yiqing Luo would be able to replace his position. Master Ghost Doctor, when do you think I can refine the bone-healing pill? Yiqing Luo wiped the sweat off her forehead. After refining these 3 bottles of pills, Yiqing Luo's entire body felt weak and powerless. Especially that profound jade heart in her chest, which was restlessly stirring. As though the stored energy was slowly disappearing. Yiqing Luo was still a master-grade alchemist, and refining pills must be done using her soul consciousness, which required the profound jade heart to nurture the heart flame as the main, with energy as support. She had been refining these 3 pills, which exhausted half of her energy. Her profound jade heart wasn't her own profound jade heart. After refining the pills, it caused the profound jade heart to be exhausted. Ghost Doctor had said it was a pity more than once. For a pill-refining genius like Yiqing Luo, if she used her original profound jade heart, the purity of her heart flame would be even higher and the pills she refined would be even purer. Ghost Doctor supported Yiqing Luo's arm with one hand as he threw her towards the soft couch by the side. Just based on your current state, and you still want to refine the bone-healing pill? Let's first refine this profound jade heart's heart flame to 100% purity. Yiqing Luo held her forehead as she sighed, lying limply on the soft mattress, refusing to get up, nor did she want to move. This feeling of the profound heart jade losing its strength was really unpleasant. This was not the first time she had encountered such a situation. Without Zhou Xian around, she had become a salted fish. There's no need to panic for the bone-healing pill. The Ghost Doctor placed the 3 bottles on the porcelain in the middle of the table. You only have these 2 main herbs. If you fail, you'll have to think of another way to find rare herbs like the mysterious ice immortal root and infant grass. In other words, if Yiqing Luo wanted to restore Ziling's leg, she must ensure 100% success rate. Yiqing Luo's long curly eyes quivered. He couldn't guarantee it. No one was able to guarantee anything about refining pills. Take a rest before returning to Devil class. Come back tomorrow to take the next assessment. Throwing this sentence, the Ghost Doctor returned to the secret room. Chapter 687. After bidding farewell to Ghost Doctor, Yiqing Luo had just walked down the stairs to the 2nd story when she saw Mo Ying expressionlessly standing by the wall. She was dressed in a pink furry dress, which was extremely eye-catching. The students who were passing by, as well as those who were studying seriously or reading books, all couldn't help but congregated their gazes over Mo Ying, that puppet-like, expressionless waist. She was also a student of Devil class. Quite a number of students recognized Mo Ying, but they didn't dare to humiliate her like usual. Because Yiqing Luo was also a student of Devil class. Humiliating Mo Ying in front of Yiqing Luo was also humiliating her. The current Yiqing Luo was a celebrity in the academy. Seeing Yiqing Luo coming out, Mo Ying slowly walked up. Her round lowly eyes were wide open, but there wasn't any focus. Class monitor asked you to return to Devil class. He has something to announce. Announce something? Why hadn't she heard of this matter? Every time Devil class needed to decide on something, wouldn't Long Yunzhan discuss with her before deciding? I've waited for you for a long time. The class should have started. Mo Ying tilted her head, using her rigid, emotionless voice to say every word. Yiqing Luo nodded. The 2 of them speedily headed towards the direction of Devil class. There wasn't a single figure in the training grounds. Yiqing Luo frowned as she sped towards the classroom. Before she got close to the classroom's entrance, she heard a deep and mellow voice coming from inside. How you usually are will be how you will be in future. There's no need to cooperate with my rhythm. This voice sounded extremely unfamiliar. Absolutely not any student from Devil class. But this tone, why did it sound a little familiar? While speaking, there was a slight smile at the end, which made her heart suddenly tremble fiercely. That voice continued. What I want to see is the truest devil class, the devil class that doesn't wear the skin of waste. Teacher. Long Yunzhan's cold voice cut off that unfamiliar voice. Our devil class itself is. Someone is skipping class. Not waiting for Long Yunzhan to finish his words, that voice continued with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Long Yunzhan's words were also cut off as he couldn't continue the conversation. Yiqing Luo could tell that Long Yunzhan was getting impatient and couldn't hold on any longer. The people who skipped class, that person was referring to was probably her and Mo Yuing. There was actually an outsider who came to the devil class. Long Yunzhan and the rest were unable to stop him. From this, it could be seen that this person was not only of noble status but also extremely powerful. Yiqing Luo walked over quickly and pushed open the wooden door of the classroom. Pop! The wooden door hit the wall, making a loud noise. The voices in the classroom stopped abruptly. Yiqing Luo stood at the door and saw a young man dressed in a white robe standing on the high platform with both hands propped up on Master Ku's table. His figure was tall and slender with smooth lines. His golden ratio figure was indeed very attractive. The man's side profile was handsome, and his posture was languid but elegant. Upon hearing the commotion, he turned his gaze over. That handsome face without any concealment crashed into Yiqing Luo's pupils. Her eyebrows were full and the smile at the corner of her mouth was peerless. His entire body exuded an extremely clean and elegant aura. What attracted Yiqing Luo the most was that pair of peach blossom-filled eyes. The corners of his eyes were long and narrow, slightly curving upwards, giving off an extremely demonic charm, extremely alluring. Chapter 688. Las Luo, come over quickly. This is Supreme Mo. He will be teaching in the devil class for the next period of time. Guiyu waved at Yiqing Luo with a face full of smiles. Apparently he was extremely happy that this man called Supreme Mo was going to teach in the devil class. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she hadn't heard what Guiyu said as she stood rooted to the ground. Her eyes widened as she stared at Supreme Mo without blinking. Luo lass. Guiyu had already walked over and slapped her on the head. Hurry up and greet him. Momo. Supreme Mo. Yiqing Luo spat out a few words in a daze. Supreme Mo's peach blossom eyes rose as it became increasingly long and narrow. That flowing light was filled with a captivating charm. Looking at the dumbstruck Yiqing Luo, who was so stunned that she couldn't say a word, his rosy lips curled into a slight arc. Student Yiqing Luo, I've heard of your name in future. Please take care of me. The last few words were spat out one by one from his mouth. Every word he spat out was like a heavy knock on her heart. Yiqing Luo, don't tell me. You've been smitten by Supreme Mo? Tong Ziqing's cold and beautiful eyes glanced at Yiqing Luo as she teased. This is not like you. The other students nodded in agreement. Look there, Madame Qing Luo had an expression of seeing a living ghost as she stood there in a daze, staring at Supreme Mo without blinking. Supreme Mo was indeed a rare good-looking man. But the overlord's looks were definitely on a higher level. Their Madame Qing Luo was actually smitten by another man to the extent that she was head over heels for him? This was too illogical. Cough. Cough cough. Hearing the students teasing, Yiqing Luo's throat was blocked as she started coughing violently. Not knowing when Supreme Mo had arrived by her side. His slender fair hand gently rested on Yiqing Luo's shoulder as he smiled warmly. Student Yiqing Luo, are you feeling unwell? Yiqing Luo's petite body shuddered as she wanted to shrink back. But the strength of that big palm seemed to be extremely light, but it held her tightly in his palm. The other students were in an uproar when they saw this scene. Why did Mo Supreme and Yiqing Luo interact so strangely and yet so harmonious? It was as if they had known each other for a long time. However, the conversation between the two of them was clearly the first time they had met. Teacher Supreme Mo Long Yunzhan frowned as his azure blue eyes swept past revered Mo's hand, which was placed on Yiqing Luo's shoulder, as his brows creased even tighter. He walked over expressionlessly as he stretched out his hand and grabbed Yiqing Luo's arm. Devil classes students are all here. Whatever you have to say, you can say it directly. But unexpectedly, just as Long Yunzhan's hand was about to grab Yiqing Luo's arm, he felt a gust of cool breeze brushing past his palm. Long Yunzhan's brows furrowed as he glanced sideways. Yiqing Luo was already in Senior Mo's arms, and Senior Mo's hand was placed on Yiqing Luo's slender waist as his 5 fingers clasped tightly. Bang! The students of Devil class, how would they still have the mood to watch the show? His boss was being disrespected by another man in front of him. How could he tolerate this? All of a sudden, the students slammed the table and stood up, their expressions ugly. I don't care what teacher you are, let go of Madame Qing Luo. Let go of your hand. Otherwise don't blame me for breaking your hand. As the students were saying that, they had already flocked towards the direction of the table. Chapter 689. Master Guiyu, he is molesting Madame Qing Luo. The students howled furiously as their eyes were bloodshot. Supreme Mo was still hugging Yiqing Luo as he stood on the stage with a calm expression and a smile on his lips, as though his action was an extremely normal thing. Whereas Yiqing Luo was nestled in his arms, not struggling at all, nor did she say a single word. Long Yunzhan exchanged glances as his heart was filled with hesitation. This Supreme Mo was extremely powerful. Even Old Man Guiyu seemed to be extremely respectful towards Supreme Mo. To be able to make the old urchin Old Man Guiyu respect him, how powerful was he? Yiqing Luo's performance was also very strange. She seemed to be shocked as her gaze was glued onto Supreme Mo's face. This indeed wasn't the usual Yiqing Luo. Could it be that this Supreme Mo and Yiqing Luo actually knew each other? From each other's eyes, the few of them could tell that they had the same thoughts. Long Yunzhan stood up and was about to stop those agitated students when he was interrupted by Ghost Doctor. Do you know who he is? Do you know what he is here for? A bunch of brats, can't you see that last Luo isn't resisting at all? Ghost Doctor stretched out his hand to stop those students as he turned his body and pointed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The students paused for a moment before they finally reacted. That's right. Yiqing Luo totally didn't resist at all. She obediently shrank into Supreme Mo's arms. If it was during normal times, other men who wanted to flirt with Yiqing Luo would absolutely be beaten up by her. Why didn't Yiqing Luo struggle? Not resisting? Could it be that Yiqing Luo had really been bewitched by Supreme Mo? Then, what about the Overlord? Seeing the students calming down, Old Man Guiyu heaved a sigh of relief as he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Little brats, stop it, Supreme Mo concerns your future. Yiqing Luo regained her senses from Old Man Guiyu's roars. She raised her eyes and glanced at the man who was hugging her tightly before looking at Old Man Guiyu. Teacher Guiyu, he concerns our future? Old Man Guiyu gave a cold humph as his white beard fluttered. The academy's main courtyard, you should have heard of it. The students nodded their heads in unison. The academy headquarters was equivalent to the mercenary guild of the mercenary group, and also equivalent to the current education bureau. If they wanted to establish an academy or formulate some internal rules, fees and other issues, as long as it was something related to the academy, they would have to go to the academy's headquarters to apply for it. He is the evaluator sent by the Heavenly Academy, Supreme Mo. The moment Old Man Guiyu finished his sentence, all the students' gazes converged in Senior Mo's direction. They had never expected that the general hospital would have such a young evaluator. One had to know that one had to pay a huge price to become an evaluator of the headquarters. It wasn't just about being strong enough. Furthermore, he had to maintain a high moral character and be able to convince others. Anyone who mentioned his name would give him a thumbs up and praise him endlessly. Generally speaking, to be able to reach this level in the field of education, one should have been in this field for at least a few decades. Especially in such a serious circle, young people could not be a deterrent at all. Judges. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes in a daze. Towards the academy's specific matters, her understanding was rather vague. The students took a careful look at Supreme Mo and immediately took turns to explain about the evaluators. As Yiqing Luo listened, she roughly understood about the evaluators. Chapter 690. Every year, the academy would conduct a selection for the best academy, to show the main academy's commendation to the academy. And before the selection, the main academy would send 1 or 2 evaluators to enter the academy to understand the overall situation. This evaluator, in order to fully understand the academy's situation, would usually stay in the academy for 3 to 5 months. And in these few months, the evaluator could choose to teach in one of the classes. Of course, he could also choose to sit in on the class. Generally, the academy would arrange the evaluator to conduct the investigation in the middle and upper classes. For example, High Profound Class 2, Intermediate Profound Class 2 and such classes. After all, if the evaluator went to the class of gods to teach, no matter how good the performance was, it was a matter of course. If the evaluator went to the low profound class to teach, those teachers' qualifications were not that good, and the standard of the teachers were lower than the intermediate and high profound classes. It was easy to make a joke out of the evaluator. What made Yiqing Luo surprised was, why would the academy agree to let the evaluator teach in Devil class? Devil class was a waste class in front of the entire academy's teachers and students. The trash students in the trash class as well as the crazy teacher Guiyu. Wasn't the evaluator afraid of dragging down the Heavenly Academy's meticulously created Gao-Dashan image? Las Luo, I'm doing this for you. This Supreme MO will be staying in Devil class to teach for the next few months. You understand? Guiyu winked his eyes. If it wasn't for the evaluator's identity, how could Guiyu, who didn't even care about the director, respect a little brat who was many generations younger than him? Yiqing Luo naturally understood that Guiyu's respect towards Supreme Mo was all for Devil class. The reason why he agreed to the interclass competition 8 months later was to let Devil class shine in that competition. To let these youngsters who had held back for several years or even more than 10 years, stand in the light and let their brilliance shine. If Supreme Mo was willing to help Devil class, to Devil class it was definitely a qualitative leap. But why, of all people, it had to be him? The lingering sandalwood fragrance and the man's familiar warmth enveloped her. Yiqing Luo was rather helpless. Even though this man had changed his face, she could still recognize him at one glance. Supreme Mo, Zhou Xian. Yiqing Luo was very curious. How did Zhou Xian conceal his identity, sneak into the headquarters and even become an evaluator? This is late student Yiqing Luo. Above her head came the man's leisurely and clear praise, mixed with a trace of faint smile. The Heavenly Academy has always been known for its good atmosphere. Students coming to the Heavenly Academy is not only to enhance their strength, but also to learn the best knowledge and the principles of life. He paused for a moment. It's the first day I came to the Devil class and I already met a student who was late. This is the atmosphere of the Heavenly Academy? Yiqing Luo stared furiously at him. Supreme Mo. Zhou Xian's long and narrow eyelids rose slightly as he released Yiqing Luo's waist and said to himself, "This late student Yiqing Luo, in order to express my attitude as a teacher of the Devil class, I must punish you. You can't blame me." Punishment? Emperor. Yiqing Luo almost shouted out his name but quickly reacted as she pursed her lips and gritted her teeth. Supreme. Husband. Son. Zhou Xian drooped his eyelids. The smile on his face was gentle like the wind, but Yiqing Luo could clearly see the teasing interest in his eyes. Yiqing Luo was so angry that she secretly clenched her teeth, but she couldn't retaliate and teach him a lesson in public. That scoundrel Zhou Xian silently came to the Heavenly Academy, and the minute they met, he was already thinking of ways to tease her. Chapter 691. This late student Yiqing Luo, I'm not deaf and I can hear your voice. Zhou Xian's slender fingers pointed to the side of the table. So, you will stand here until I announce the dismissal. Was this the rhythm of being punished to stand? How could this man be so childish? The students were all stunned. Especially Qiao Jin and the rest. They directly laughed out in an unkind manner. When had they ever seen Yiqing Luo in this state? When had they ever seen Yiqing Luo suffering a setback, wanting to get angry but suppressing her anger with a sullen look? This Master Supremo was really incredible. The moment he came to Devil class, he easily broke through their 2 academy gates checkpoint and even convinced Master Guiyu. Now, he even molested Yiqing Luo in front of them, punishing her. Forgive them. She really couldn't hold it in. Yiqing Luo stared angrily at him. Qiao Jin and the rest laughed even louder. Qing Luo, this is the stepping stone for Devil class to step out of Devil class's courtyard. You all know each other so everything can be discussed. Calling him a stepping stone in front of Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian didn't mind. His lips curled as he nodded in a serious manner. Student Yiqing Luo, stand over there. Mo Ying, who was standing by the side, walked up 2 steps as she tilted her head and opened her big black eyes wide. Master Supremo, I'm late too. Zhou Xian's gaze was still fixed on Yiqing Luo as his voice was gentle. There are always accidents in everything. On account that this is your first time being late, I won't punish you. Mo Ying blinked her eyes. After some time she finally reacted as she nodded her head heavily. Oh. Following that she took small steps back to her own seat. At this moment not only Qiao Jin was holding his stomach in laughter, the other students also couldn't hold it in. Knowing that Yiqing Luo and Master Supreme Mo were acquainted, Yiqing Luo didn't have any resistance towards Master Supreme Mo Devil Class's students naturally retracted their enmity as they watched the show. Anyone could tell that Master Supreme Mo was intentionally teasing Yiqing Luo. It was rare to see the fearless, overbearing and domineering Yiqing Luo revealing such a sullen expression. Damn it, there was no need for such differential treatment. To think that this man could still punish her with a straight face. Zhou Xian ignored Yiqing Luo's furious gaze as he walked past her and returned to the side of the counter, turning to look at the students who were laughing out loud. Everyone please be quiet. Before coming here I asked Old Man Guiyu about your situation. You can rest assured that since I am your teacher, I will definitely treat you as my students and teach you well. Zhou Xian started to speak and every single word and sentence indicated that for the next few months, he would definitely be staying in the devil class. The students below were infected by his words. Their expressions of watching the show gradually turned serious. Yiqing Luo stood by the side of the counter and was very close to him. She could clearly see that when he was speaking that pair of peach blossom eyes was flowing with a serious luster. Zhou Xian had disguised himself as Supreme Mo and came to the academy, pretending to be meeting her for the first time in devil class. He must have his reasons. Yiqing Luo would not intentionally expose him. It was just that he was filled with curiosity, unable to guess Zhou Xian's motive for doing so. It was absolutely not because he wanted to stay by her side, so he intentionally disguised himself as Supreme Mo and came to devil class. Just as Yiqing Luo was staring at Zhou Xian, secretly guessing, she heard the man's clear voice ringing, "Student Yiqing Luo who is late, come over and distribute these basic training books to every student." Yiqing Luo regained her senses as her vision followed Zhou Xian's finger and saw that on the counter, there was a stack of green books. Chapter 692. Late student Yiqing Luo, I will misunderstand if you look at me affectionately like that. Zhou Xian squinted his peach blossom eyes and immediately retreated behind Old Man Guiyu. That won't do, I'm a master and you're a student. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. Be a master then be a good master. Couldn't you have a little bit of a master's solemnity? Couldn't you have a little bit of a master's immortal air? The other students were shocked. One by one they stared at the two of them on the counter in bewilderment. Why did they suddenly feel that this combination looked so harmonious? Why did they feel that the master and their own boss's eyes met each other in just a few simple sentences? They could feel the blinding light. The students were stunned for a long time and suddenly slapped their own heads hard. What harmony! What blinding light! Their own boss and the overlord were a pair. This unknown evaluator was just a passerby. How could he be compared to the overlord? Yiqing Luo merely shot a glance, and other than Long Yunzhan and the other students' actions were the same, patting their heads at the same frequency, and she knew what they were thinking about in their minds. The corner of her mouth twitched even more. Damn it! What happened to the feudal thinking of the ancient people? She knelt down in front of this gossiping and imagination ability. Yiqing Luo stared at Zhou Xian resentfully and strode over to pick up a stack of basic training books. Yes, master, I'll distribute them to the other students now. When she passed by Zhou Xian, Yiqing Luo's petite body suddenly stiffened. The man with the stinky face actually secretly pinched her waist in a blind spot where no one could see. Yiqing Luo turned her head and stared at him, only to see that he was still smiling warmly and continued to chat with the students. She endured. Wait and see how she would teach him a lesson in private. Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth and distributed the books to the students one by one. Everyone looked at Yiqing Luo with an expression of wanting to ask but not daring to. Yiqing Luo had an urge to give Zhou Xian a good beating. Finally, under the baptism of the whole class, all the basic books were distributed and Yiqing Luo immediately returned to the counter. Zhou Xian took out a stack of white paper and wrote a few simple words on it, which seemed to be something like a questionnaire. His shimmering peach blossom eyes looked at Yiqing Luo quietly. Zhou Xian stretched out his hand and pointed, "Student Yiqing Luo who is late, and these student questionnaires, distribute them to the class." Since they were going to hand out the questionnaire, why didn't they take it out earlier and let her hand out the foundational books as well? Was he doing it on purpose? Yiqing Luo suppressed her anger as she strode over and grabbed the questionnaire on the counter, not forgetting to turn his head to glare fiercely at Zhou Xian as he gave a cold snort. With this turn of her head, Yiqing Luo's entire body directly crashed into Zhou Xian's chest. She was filled with anger, so her actions were naturally hurried and impatient. It was as if he had hit a wall. The survey forms in his hands flew to the ground. Qing Luo. Long Yunzhan couldn't sit still as he immediately stood up, wanting to rush up to help Yiqing Luo. However, he was stopped by a hand. It was Qiaojin. Long Yunzhan frowned as his azure blue eyes stirred a whirlpool. But he saw Qiaojin slowly shaking his head as his peripheral vision shot towards Yiqing Luo's direction and his dark eyes met Long Yunzhan's eyes. The other students couldn't tell. How could they possibly not be able to tell? Did Yiqing Luo look like the kind of person who allowed herself to be trampled upon, to allow others to disrespect her, yet she was willing to endure it? Don't think that Yiqing Luo's expression was sullen, bearing a look of enduring silently. But that pair of quick-witted eyes, when it congealed towards Supreme Mo, would overflow with a faint tender feeling. Chapter 693. Yiqing Luo continued to bear with it. Squatting down, she picked up the questionnaire on the ground. At the same time, Zhou Xian also squatted down. Both of them silently picked up the questionnaire on the ground. The entire classroom fell into a strange silence. The students didn't know if it was because Long Yunzhan and the rest didn't move, so they didn't move, or were stunned by Yiqing Luo and Master Xian's interaction. No one went up to help, all of them stood on the spot looking at them in a daze. Yiqing Luo scolded Zhou Xian for being childish in her heart, but there was a faint sweet feeling lingering in her heart. Just as she was picking up the questionnaire, a large palm suddenly covered the back of her hand. There were thin calluses on the fingertips of her broad and thick palms, which were faintly stirring her palms. Yiqing Luo's little hand trembled as she wanted to retract it, but it was held tightly by the man's fingers. "Let go." Yiqing Luo suppressed her voice as she stretched out her other hand, to pry Zhou Xian's hand away. He didn't let go, only curling his thin lips as his peach blossom eyes gazed at Yiqing Luo with a smile yet not a smile. Following that, he leaned over and placed the questionnaire which he had picked up into Yiqing Luo's arms. His fingers faintly brushed past her body. When he leaned over, Zhou Xian's sandalwood fragrance, which made one's heart palpitate, and that strong man's breath, sprayed onto her body. Yiqing Luo turned her head away as her cheeks started to heat up. Zhou Xian's smile deepened as he slowly moved his body away. Before he moved away, he used their voices as he laughed softly. "Lil Luo, this kind of secret love, is it exciting?" Yiqing Luo's cheeks instantly flushed red. What secret love? What was exciting? This man was really childish to the max. Yiqing Luo held the questionnaire tightly as she abruptly stood up, and stared at Zhou Xian resentfully as she carried the questionnaire and walked towards the direction of the students. She was overbearing as she held a questionnaire, as she slammed her palm heavily on the table. The students were stunned by her imposing manner, so how would they dare to ask a single word? After she finished distributing the questionnaire, Yiqing Luo didn't even take a look at Zhou Xian as she swung her hand and left the classroom, heading directly to the class committee room. After Yiqing Luo left the students in the classroom, how could they still put their thoughts on the basic training books in the survey forms, as they looked at each other in dismay? They really couldn't understand what was the relationship between their boss and supreme teacher. Zhou Xian's rosy lips curled upwards, until Yiqing Luo's figure disappeared from his sight. He turned his head around, facing the students below. At this moment, his expression became extremely serious. "It doesn't matter if it's the class of gods or the class of devils. To me, all students are equal. I know that you are preparing to participate in the inter-class competition in 8 months. That is the only chance for you to wash away the label of trash. In that competition, the Academy headquarters will also send a few elders to the Heavenly Academy to observe. That is also a chance for you to show off your skills. Pausing for a moment, Zhou Xian's serene black eyes swept past all the students in front of him. His tone became solemn once again. So, I will teach in your class, and in the inter-class competition 8 months later, I will do my best to help you, and I hope that all the students can cooperate. The students' vision all turned towards Long Yunzhan. Towards this teacher who seemed to be familiar with Madame Qing Luo, they maintained a wait-and-see attitude. Long Yunzhan nodded expressionlessly as his expression remained cold and aloof. But, if one looked carefully, they could still discover. Chapter 694. Zhou Xian narrowed his eyes as he could naturally see Long Yunzhan's displeasure. He also understood the reason why Long Yunzhan didn't like him. He did not mind and clapped his hands. Have a good rest today. From tomorrow onwards, I will work with old man Guiyu to officially train you. After dismissing the students, Zhou Xian walked out of the classroom. He wiped away the warm smile in his eyes and looked around the corridor outside the school. Just as he was about to take a step forward, a figure blocked his way. It's you. Qiao Jin crossed his arms and leaned against the wooden door of the academy. He narrowed his eyes as he sized up Zhou Xian. Although he suspected that this Supreme Master Mo could possibly be Zhou Xian. But if he didn't personally admit it, Qiao Jin would feel that something was wrong. Because of this, he stopped Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian raised his brows. Student Qiao Jin, what do you think? Qiao Jin shook his head, his expression serious. I think it's you. If not, please stay away from Qing Luo in future. Why? Qiao Jin stared at Zhou Xian as his gaze congealed. Because she belongs to someone else. Ha. When Zhou Xian heard that, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. That face that was as handsome as an evil god smiled even more devilishly, shocking everyone. He stretched out his hand and lightly patted Qiao Jin's shoulder. Then he walked past Qiao Jin and headed straight for the class committee room. Qiao Jin stared at his back for a long time. He retracted his gaze and glanced sideways at his shoulder that had been patted. As expected, it was him. What are you looking at? Let's go. Suddenly, a hand grabbed a strand of Qiao Jin's ink-black hair and tugged it fiercely. What should be confirmed has already been confirmed. The couple has some private things to talk about. Are you going to join in the fun? Qiao Jin felt the pain and he grabbed the slender wrist of the woman behind him. Yan Xiaoyi, if you want to talk then talk, don't be touchy. Touch you? Bah. I don't want to throw up last night's dinner. Yan Xiaoyi flung his hand away and scoffed. What are you still standing there for? The class monitor is still waiting for you. With that, he turned around and entered the classroom. Qiao Jin opened his eyes wide, displeasure written all over his face. Halt. Tell me clearly, how did I make you want to vomit? We've been classmates for a few years and now you're saying I'm ugly? Hey. Stop right there. Yiqing Luo was sitting on the soft chair, pondering over the purpose of Zhou Xian's disguise to enter the Heavenly Academy. Suddenly his ears twitched. He heard the door of the class committee room being pushed open. A familiar scent wafted into his nose. Yiqing Luo snorted softly and turned her head away. Little Luo, Zhou Xian strode over, and by the time he stood in front of Yiqing Luo, his body fell down lazily. Yiqing Luo was just about to get up and evade. The man seemed to know what she was going to do and quickly grabbed her wrist. The familiar scent of sandalwood instantly enveloped her. The man's burning hot chest was tightly pressed against her delicate body. Yiqing Luo's heartbeat inexplicably accelerated. Her body temperature seemed to be rising because of the man's embrace. Yiqing Luo's delicate body trembled slightly as she stretched out her hand to push him away. Zhou Xian had already pressed her down on the soft chair, his arms tightly wrapped around her delicate body. Yiqing Luo's entire body was almost wrapped up by him. Don't move, let me hug you properly. The deep and husky voice was filled with a seductive meaning, as it slowly seeped into Yiqing Luo's eardrums into her heart. The rich sandalwood scent mixed with the man's scent. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered, as the luster in her eyes gradually couldn't be gathered, as she appeared slightly tipsy. Little Luo, I missed you. Chapter 695. It wasn't the first time she heard him saying that he missed her. But every single time, it made her heart beat faster and her cheeks flushed red. This man always used the simplest way to touch her heart. The anger in her heart because of those childish things that Zhou Xian had done in the academy had long disappeared. But her mouth couldn't help but grumble as she raised her fist and pounded it on his chest. Miss me and still bully me. Earlier in the academy, you put on your master's bad character quite excitedly. But just as this fist was about to land on him, Yiqing Luo stopped. She opened her fingers and directly tore Zhou Xian's robe. How's your injury? Master's robe was rather loose and with just a few light tugs, a large patch of fair skin was revealed. The injuries earlier had already healed and there wasn't even a scar. Yiqing Luo had just heaved a sigh of relief, and before she could say anything, her wrist was suddenly held tightly by Zhou Xian's large palm. She swung her hand but was unable to break free. Raising her eyes to look at Zhou Xian, she met with a pair of eyes which seemed to be flickering with fire. His eyes were spitting fire. The flame wrapped around her as though it was going to burn her everything. That handsome face, which was like a god, profound and elegant, had an extremely grave expression. Yiqing Luo was stunned by the fire in his eyes, and seeing his serious expression, her body gradually stiffened. Lil Luo, He opened his mouth and murmured softly. Following that, he lowered his eyes and stared at his half-opened robe before raising his eyes to look at her. Yiqing Luo's face flushed bright red. She pursed her pink lips and stammered, I didn't. Repeatedly forcefully tearing my clothes, Lil Luo, can't wait anymore? Zhou Xian's fingers circled her slender wrist as he gave an extremely pure smile. But the words he said made Yiqing Luo's ears flushed red, unable to refute. Lil Luo, don't you know that this kind of action and behavior is sending an invitation to a man? Zhou Xian loved the way her face turned red. The more he teased her, the more he wanted to tease her. Seeing her blush and bashful because of his words, his heart was filled with satisfaction. If you dare to tear my clothes again, don't blame me for retaliating. That demonic voice lingered around her ears, causing Yiqing Luo's body to tremble as though she was struck by lightning. In his mind, he subconsciously imagined the scene of Zhou Xian's counterattack. Instantly, her cheeks flushed red as she buried her head into Zhou Xian's arms. It's over. She, a 21st century human, was actually teased by an ancient to the point that her face turned red and she was speechless. Wasn't it just driving a car? Her car racing skills were also top-notch. That was what he thought in his heart. But when he raised his head and saw Zhou Xian's smiling peach blossom eyes, the lofty sentiments that he had brewed up with great difficulty were extinguished in an instant. Zhou Xian couldn't help but chuckle, his chest trembling slightly. It shook Yiqing Luo, who was leaning on him, as that electric shock feeling grew stronger. His slender fingers stroked her hair. These days I've been thinking about you all the time. His other arm, the arm which was locked around Yiqing Luo's waist, tightened. His strength was extremely strong, as though he wanted to knead her into his bones and blood. Yiqing Luo was strangled till she couldn't breathe properly, as her nostrils were filled with the sandalwood scent from his body. She shut her eyes, listening to the strong and powerful heartbeat ringing by the side of her ears. Beat by beat, it crashed against her eardrums, striking right into her heart. Zhou Xian wasn't a man who liked to say sweet nothings. He was more inclined to use his actions to express his thoughts. He said it once, thinking of her. And said it for the second time. Chapter 696. Buried in his arms, Yiqing Luo's lips couldn't help but curled upwards, outlining a happy arc. And I missed you too. Gentle words, like a whisper, poured out from Yiqing Luo's mouth. Zhou Xian's body suddenly stiffened. His hand buckled Yiqing Luo's jaw, forcibly lifted her head, his gaze straight into her eyes. Say that again. Yiqing Luo's breathing gradually hastened, curly long eyelashes kept flickering. She wanted to shift her gaze away, but Zhou Xian's fingers were extremely tight, not giving her any chance to escape shyly. Being forced into a helpless situation, Yiqing Luo stared at him angrily, her voice soft. I missed you too. When the last word fell, the man's devilish charming face enlarged rapidly in her pupils. Immediately the icy cold thin lips had already covered her lips. totally not giving her a chance to resist. The hand that buckled her chin slid into her hair, pressing the back of her head, deepening the kiss. The scorching breath burned between the two of them. With the addition of Zhou Xian, these students who were originally tormented by Yiqing Luo had now become so miserable that they wished they were dead. Zhou Xian's training was superimposed with the mission that Yiqing Luo had handed over. Moreover, the mission that Zhou Xian handed over was not much better than Yiqing Luo. Chasing behind them, not only was there a huge, agile leopard, there was also a dignified nine-tailed fox. Only everyone was shouting that they were tired, screaming that it was better to die than to live. But every day the mission that was handed over to them, everyone still gritted their teeth, forcing themselves to complete it. Yiqing Luo was still the same as before, running around the pill refining room, training ground, dormitory, spiritual chi, treasured land, these few places. In a flash, another half a month had passed. The two instructors who had applied for sick leave also returned to the academy. The news of Yiqing Luo and the two cold-faced instructors coming to a draw had already spread throughout the entire academy. Back to the academy, it was still inevitable to be chased by the students, asking about the situation that day, and whether Yiqing Luo had the qualifications to enter the class of gods. After all, during this period of time, Yiqing Luo had accepted the challenge from the Intermediate Profound Class 2 class monitor, Xian, to participate in the interclass competition 8 months later. And during this period of time, after being brainwashed by the high profound class and faculty council, these students finally realized that, although tomorrow was the class competition, even if there was only one Yiqing Luo in Devil class, the rest of the trash wouldn't be able to make it far in the interclass competitions. However, the most important thing was that there was a rule in the interclass competition. As long as there was one student left in a certain class, that class would not be completely eliminated. Although it was difficult for Yiqing Luo to fight against 4 hands. But if they were to lose to Devil class once, how embarrassing would that be? Yiqing Luo represented the Devil class. No matter how the students asked, the cold-faced instructors maintained their cold and aloof attitude. As for the main characters of the students' discussion, no one had seen any trace of them in the past half a month. As a result, while the students were pondering if Yiqing Luo had gone missing, Yiqing Luo was singled out by the director and summoned to the director's office. Yiqing Luo had just returned to the dormitory from the training ground when she saw Yun Xiang and Lu Shuiyu chatting in the dormitory hall. On seeing Yiqing Luo, Yun Xiang stood up and smiled amiably. "Student Yiqing Luo, the director invites you to the director's office." Yiqing Luo nodded her head slightly as she untied her sweaty hair and returned to her own room, directly leaving Yun Xiang hanging by one side. Chapter 697. Student Yiqing Luo, the director invites you to the director's office. Standing at the door, Yun Xiang repeated once again. There wasn't any sound in the room. It was until Yun Xiang raised his voice and was about to repeat it for the 3rd time when he heard a lazy voice coming from inside. "Elder Yun Xiang, I just came back from jogging and I'm covered in sweat. Are you sure you want me to meet the director like this?" Yun Xiang's face flushed red, and after restraining himself for some time, he finally suppressed the anger in his heart. Approximately 1 hour later, Yiqing Luo came out from the room. Looking at the clean and refreshing Yiqing Luo, Yun Xiang was stunned not to say a single word of rebuke. Yiqing Luo didn't continue to make things difficult for him. After all, she still wanted to continue her studies in this academy. It was enough to make the director wait for 1 hour. Immediately, without waiting for Yun Xiang to regain his senses, she directly walked out of the dormitory. Yun Xiang was stunned for a moment and followed closely behind. The two of them came to the director's office and Yun Xiang went in to report. Although the door of the director's office was soundproof, but Yiqing Luo's ears were extremely sensitive and she could clearly hear the director's angry voice and the sound of things falling onto the ground. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched in ridicule. Very quickly, Yun Xiang opened the door and gave up his position. "Director asks you to enter." With a smile on his face, his tone was amiable but his eyes revealed a cold intent, apparently blaming Yiqing Luo for the director's angry rebuke. Yiqing Luo walked into the director's office. The director was sitting at one end of the red sandalwood square table, and on the table was a thick stack of matters which the academy needed to handle. Only the seat in front of him was an empty teapot and a few teacups. In front of Yiqing Luo there was a broken teacup. Yiqing Luo's vision swept past the broken pieces of the teacup as she raised her brows and looked at the director. The director was still dressed in a greenish-gray robe with an amiable smile hanging on the corners of his lips. No matter how amiable he pretended to be, it was unable to conceal the deep-rooted prestige between his brows. "Student Yi, take a seat here." The director waved his hand, indicating for her to come over. He didn't seem to mind that Yiqing Luo had made him wait for 1 hour. Yiqing Luo nodded and obediently walked over, sitting on the chair on the right side of the director. "Do you know why I invited you to the director's office today?" Director poured a cup of tea and pushed it towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's long curly lashes fluttered slightly, her charming eyes revealed an innocent look as she shook her head. The headmaster smiled. His fingers curled around the teacup and he took a sip. "I have a few questions that I hope Student Yi can answer." Yiqing Luo pretended to be uneasy as she stood up. "Sir Director, you don't even know. How would I know?" "You must know." The dean squinted his shrewd eyes, reflecting a sharp light. The extremely imposing gaze made Yiqing Luo's entire body stiffen, as she sat back stiffly. Director saw that his prestige was enough to awe Yiqing Luo and his smile deepened in satisfaction. "Regarding the killer infiltrating the academy and assassinating Student Yi, does Student Yi still remember?" "Of course I remember." Yiqing Luo nodded hard. "That time I almost lost my life, how could I not remember?" "Student Yi, do you remember that I asked you something before?" Yiqing Luo sat up straight, indicating that she was all ears. Student Ye's ability shouldn't be especially outstanding. Indeed, the last time Yiqing Luo was assassinated, she was carried to the director's office and the director intentionally asked her about her ability. Those students who were allocated to the devil class were the students with the worst aptitude in Heavenly Academy. Yiqing Luo nodded. Chapter 698. Indeed. The director suspected her. Yiqing Luo was very clear that the director was totally on account of Ghost Doctor's face, harboring his suspicions to keep her. But the director had been suspecting if she had heard the conversation between him and that guardian on the second story of the library pavilion. Indeed, the director had always been suspicious of Yiqing Luo. He even arranged for someone to investigate her thoroughly. Yiqing Luo, this student, really made one unable to fathom her. From the looks of it, she was obviously a dainty young lady, ignorant of worldly affairs. But every single sentence she said was watertight. There was totally no loophole that could be caught. He who had been in a high position for so many years naturally had his own intuition. This female student always made him feel an inexplicable flustered feeling. Could it be just because she was? Suddenly, a piece of token was thrown onto the table. That was Yiqing Luo's academy token. The director understood what she meant as he shot a glance at Yiqing Luo and stretched out his hand to pick up that wooden token. Yiqing Luo's information was clearly printed on the top. The second last row was also clearly marked. Profound grade. Yellow profound 9th grade. The director's eagle eyes constricted as his 5 fingers pinched the wooden token. Yiqing Luo knew that the director was testing the authenticity of this wooden token. This wooden token was personally made by the director. Yiqing Luo was totally not worried. This wooden token had already been tampered with by Zhou Xian. Even if it was the director's test, Yiqing Luo wasn't afraid that he would find out anything. As expected, the director released the wooden token and passed it back. "May I ask, Sir Director, in the Heavenly Academy, a yellow profound 9th grade like me, is my ability considered outstanding?" Yiqing Luo pinned the wooden token back to her waist as she looked at the director with a beaming smile. Actually, even if Yiqing Luo displayed her mystic profound 8th grade power on the surface, in this Heavenly Academy which was full of geniuses, it would at most be considered as above average standard. The director's half-squinted eyes slowly opened. "A yellow profound 9th grade like you can fight to a draw with the 2 instructors. No wonder they want to recommend you to enter the class of gods." Yiqing Luo shrugged. "If it's stipulated to use profound qi, I naturally won't be the 2 instructors' match. Why don't you want to enter the class of gods?" The dean changed the topic. Yiqing Luo spread out her hands and blinked her eyes innocently. "I have self-awareness. That kind of place is not suitable for me to go." The dean fell silent. Yiqing Luo's skills were indeed much stronger than ordinary students. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to rely on his agility to escape the pursuit of those experienced killers. What astonished the director the most was Yiqing Luo was very intelligent. If a normal student had the chance to enter the class of gods, they would do anything to get it. But Yiqing Luo was very clear about her position. This was what Yiqing Luo meant by knowing one's own limitations. If she, a yellow mystic 9th level student, really entered the class of gods, she would definitely die at the hands of the students in the class of gods. Dean, do you have any other questions? Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as her slender fingers brushed the stray hair by the side of her face. If there's no problem, I'll head back to Master first. Master is still waiting for me on the 2nd level of the library pavilion. Ever since Yiqing Luo became Ghost Doctor's disciple, Yiqing Luo would head over to the 2nd story of the library pavilion almost every day. This caused the entire academy's students to be guessing what was Yiqing Luo's identity. Why were Devil class students able to head over to the 2nd story of the library pavilion without any scruples? To the extent that the faculty council members had reported this to the director, but he didn't have any special expression, apparently approving of Yiqing Luo's action of heading to the 2nd story of the library pavilion. Chapter 699. Hearing Yiqing Luo using Ghost Doctor as a shield, the director's expression sunk instantly. He really didn't understand why the Ghost Doctor, who had never accepted any disciples and only placed all his thoughts on refining pills, would accept Yiqing Luo as his disciple. The director naturally heard the library pavilion administrator mention about Ghost Doctor's protection of Yiqing Luo. Ghost Doctor. Now let them be complacent for a while. When the time comes, no one in this academy would be able to threaten his position. That's right. No one would be able to shake his position in the academy. He would become the real ruler of Heavenly Academy. With this thought in mind, the director's lips revealed a smile again. Student, you relax, I have no intention to question you. The person whom Ghost Doctor has his eyes on, naturally wouldn't be that bad. Yiqing Luo's lips still carried a smile. But her heart suddenly sank. Earlier, it was absolutely not an illusion. She saw a strong murderous intent and ambition in the director's eyes. As though, because she mentioned Ghost Doctor, could it be that the director wanted to kill Ghost Doctor? No, impossible. Unless the director didn't want this academy anymore. One must know that Ghost Doctor was an elder-grade alchemist. A pill refining room that was hard to get even with money. If Ghost Doctor was killed, Heavenly Academy would lose an elder-grade alchemist, and their status would definitely plummet. If the identity of an elder-grade alchemist was revealed, it would be an extremely good advertisement for Heavenly Academy. Otherwise, the director wouldn't have painstakingly built an independent alchemist room for Ghost Doctor on the 2nd story of the library pavilion, and even specially opened a secret room for Ghost Doctor. He even put up with Ghost Doctor's weird temper. The director obviously valued Ghost Doctor greatly. It was impossible for him to want to kill Ghost Doctor. Then, the murderous intent in the director's eyes, he wanted to kill her? Student Yi. The director opened his mouth once again, summoning Yiqing Luo's thoughts. She smiled as she looked at the director meekly. The director's smile revealed a sliver of cautiousness. Student Yi, I have a personal question to ask you. When had the high and mighty director ever been so cautious towards a student? Yiqing Luo guessed the director's intention. Indeed, the next second she heard the director laughing. The main courtyard's evaluator has chosen Devil class to teach. During this period of time, the evaluator and Devil class's students. Did you get along well? This was the main reason why the dean wanted to see her. Other than Yiqing Luo and Old Man Guiyu, even he, the director, was unable to find out which students were in the Devil class. The ones who called out their names. In other words, he was an ordinary freshman who had entered the academy a few years ago. For example, Yan Xiaoyi, Tong Ziqing and the other students from the big families. Although they had barely passed the entrance examinations, but all of them were timid and weak, and did not have any amazing talents, so after a discussion between the elder quarters and the faculty council, they were directly thrown into the Devil class. After that, the academy could no longer find any information on these people. Only the wooden token that represented their identity showed their profound rank. In the past few years, There were only a few people who had advanced a few ranks. The dean was completely disappointed in the students of the devil class. However, the evaluators were determined and wanted to go to the devil class. The director had no right to reject the class selected by the evaluator, so he could only bite the bullet and let Guiyu bring the evaluator to the devil class. He even urged old man Guiyu to persuade the judges to choose another class. But half a month had passed. Not only was there no movement from the devil class, there was no movement from the evaluators too. The evaluators were related to whether the Heavenly Academy would be chosen as the best academy this year, so the director was naturally extremely anxious. He wanted to find old man Guiyu to understand the situation. Unfortunately, old man Guiyu seemed to have disappeared along with the devil class. Chapter 700. Are you referring to Senior Mo? Yiqing Luo scratched her head. We got along well. Senior Mo is very easygoing. Yes, it's Senior Mo. The director's tone was getting more and more nervous. Did he mention when he will leave the devil class? Yiqing Luo shook her head decisively. No, Senior Mo said that he will be staying in the devil class for the next few months. The director's face sunk, closed his eyes and leaned back stiffly on the chair. The next few months. Which meant, Senior Mo was prepared to stay in the devil class until the selection day. That also meant what Senior Mo saw now would be the most decadent and trashy place in the Heavenly Academy. How could the Heavenly Academy be selected for this year's best academy? It had been sitting on the throne of the best academy for 6 consecutive years. The director couldn't take it. The best throne for the past 6 years was snatched away by another academy. Student Yi, how is your relationship with Senior Mo? The director had heard about what happened that day at the freshman training ground. Senior Mo's narration, Instructor Ho and Instructor Chu's narration, as well as the students' discussion. Principal Zhang could roughly imagine what had happened that day. That was Senior Mo. The first time he arrived at the Heavenly Academy, he saw that farce. And because he saw Yiqing Luo and the instructor at the scene, Senior Mo said he wanted to go to the class where Yiqing Luo stayed. It was obvious that this Supreme Mo had taken an interest in Yiqing Luo. If Yiqing Luo helped him to plead to persuade Senior Mo to go to the high profound class, perhaps it could change Senior Mo's impression of the Heavenly Academy. When the director asked this question, Yiqing Luo had already guessed his intention. To tell the truth, until now she still didn't know why Zhou Xian appeared in the Heavenly Academy as Senior Mo. Although Zhou Xian spent most of his time with the students of the devil class. But every night Yiqing Luo would sneak out of the window after the other dormitory mates had fallen asleep, to cultivate profound qi under old man Tsong's guidance. After that, whether Zhou Xian continued to sleep on her bed or left to do his own things, Yiqing Luo didn't know. Of course, she didn't deliberately ask. If Zhou Xian was going to tell her the purpose of coming to the Heavenly Academy, he would have told her on the first day they met. He naturally had his reasons for not saying it. She only needed to know that no matter what decision Zhou Xian made, he would never harm her or those people whom she cared about, and that was enough. Seeing that Yiqing Luo didn't reply for a long time, the director threw out his bait. Student Yi, Instructor Ho and Instructor Chu have jointly recommended you to enter Class of God. I didn't agree because of your personal reasons. I'm worried that if you enter Class of God, you won't be able to keep up with the other students' progress. He paused, squinted his majestic eyes and continued, if you're willing to convince Supreme Master Mo to teach in the high profound class, I can let you enter the Class of God and guide you personally to keep up with the progress of the Class of God. This was indeed a great temptation. In the entire Heavenly Academy, there had never been such a case where the Dean personally guided them. Not only could he enter the Class of Gods, but he could also receive personal guidance from the Dean. What kind of honor was this? If it were any other student, they would probably be moved to tears and kneel to thank the Dean for his kindness. However, Yiqing Luo had no interest in the Class of God right from the start. What's more, she didn't have any good impression of the Dean. She didn't believe that she would be better off in the Class of God. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.